Welcome to The Explainer. So, think of research as a giant detective's journey into the unknown. If you've ever sat back and wondered how humanity actually figures out the universe, or how we solve these massive, complex, real-world problems, well, you're absolutely in the right place today. Our goal here is to completely demystify what research really is. We're moving way beyond just typing a question into a search engine. We're going to explore the rigorous, structured frameworks that literally built the modern world around us. So get ready, because we're going to look at problem solving in a whole new way. I want to kick things off with this fantastic quote from Albert Einstein. Honestly, it's incredibly reassuring, isn't it? Even the absolute greatest minds in human history recognize that research is fundamentally an exploratory journey into the total unknown. It's really not about already having all the answers. It's about having the courage and the structure to go out and find them. So if you ever feel a little intimidated by the whole concept of formal research, don't be. You are essentially just joining a huge, long lineage of curious minds trying to figure out what exactly it is we're doing. Okay, let's take a quick look at our roadmap for today. We're covering 5 main areas. First, what actually is research? Second, basic versus applied research. Third, descriptive versus analytical methods. Fourth, the basic research process itself. And finally, research ethics and data. All right, diving right into section 1. What is research? There is a super common myth out there that research is just casually looking things up online. Let's just dispel that right now. Research is an organized, highly intentional search for truth. It is systematic, it's creative work, and it's undertaken specifically to increase our overall stock of knowledge. It involves collecting, organizing, and analyzing evidence to really understand a topic. And crucially, it is characterized by actively controlling for bias and error. It is not random. It is incredibly purposeful, addressing very clearly defined questions with rigorous methods. Moving right along to section 2, basic versus applied research. The best way to think about basic research is like building the foundation of a house. It expands our fundamental knowledge out of pure curiosity. It asks the big question, why does this happen? Now, you might not see an immediate, tangible benefit right away, but without it, nothing else can stand. Applied research, on the flip side, is building the actual house that people live in. It takes all that foundational knowledge produced by basic research and it uses it to solve specific real-world problems for clients or for society. It asks, okay, how can we use this to fix something right now? When you put them side by side, the differences in timelines and outcomes are pretty stark. Basic research is playing the long game. We're literally talking years, sometimes decades. The outcomes are these broad, generalizable theories or laws, like, for example, investigating the deep mechanisms of how DNA replication works. Applied research, though, operates on a much shorter time frame, usually months to a few years, with highly specific outcomes. We're talking tangible products or actionable recommendations. Think about developing a specific new vaccine or testing out a brand new teaching method in a classroom. They even live in different places. Basic research is often done in university labs, while applied is usually out there in industry labs or hospitals. Now, it is absolutely crucial to understand that basic and applied research are not at war with each other. They exist together on a continuous loop called the research cycle. Back in 1915, Einstein developed the theory of relativity. That was pure basic research driven just by curiosity. But decades later, engineers needed to build satellite navigation, so they used his foundational knowledge. That's applied research to create the GPS systems that we literally use every single day. But wait, it gets better. GPS accuracy challenges then sparked brand new questions about atmospheric interference, which triggered a whole new round of basic research. Theories feed practical solutions, and those solutions inspire entirely new questions. It's an endless, fascinating cycle. That brings us perfectly to section 3, descriptive versus analytical research. Let me ask you this. How do researchers actually approach their data once they finally have a problem to solve? If we go back to our detective metaphor for a second, think about how a detective looks at a fresh crime scene just to gather the raw facts, versus how they actually sit down back at the precinct to build a complex case connecting all the suspects. Those are 2 very different analytical approaches. And here is exactly how those approaches break down. Descriptive research is your snapshot. It captures the what, the who, and the where without manipulating a single variable. It just sets the baseline. So an example would be a survey that simply counts the dropout rate in rural schools. It observes and it records. Analytical research, though, is your detective's case file. It goes way beyond the surface to uncover the why and the how. It tests hypotheses to find complex relationships.
For instance, taking that exact same dropout data and analyzing if distance to the school or maybe poverty is the actual root cause of those high rates. And as you can probably guess, you usually need that descriptive snapshot first before you can even attempt the analytical detective work.
All right, Section 4, the basic research process. Let's be real. The reality of applied research can be incredibly ambiguous and, well, messy. That's exactly why academic guides rely so heavily on structured frameworks. These frameworks are specifically designed to help beginners avoid wasting resources, putting out inaccurate findings, and dealing with sheer frustration. They do this by breaking massive, overwhelming projects down into manageable, actionable steps. So, what are those steps? First up, you identify your topic and pinpoint the specific problem or gap in the existing knowledge. Next, you dive into a literature review to study everything that's already out there. Step 3 is formulating a hypothesis, which is really just a testable prediction about how things might relate to each other. Then comes Step 4, gathering your actual data from your target population using valid instruments. And finally, Step 5, analyzing and interpreting that data. You break down all those individual pieces to draw actionable conclusions, figure out what it all means, and see if your initial hypothesis was actually on the money. This chronological process, that is your compass. In our final stop today, Section 5, Research Ethics and Data. Whenever researchers are dealing with human subjects, they have to work with institutional review boards, or IRBs. Now, I know it's super tempting to view them as the academic fun police, just there to slow you down with endless paperwork, but our sources strongly advise viewing them as essential partners. Building a positive, collaborative relationship with ethics reviewers actually smooths out the entire research process. They are there to ensure human safety and to prevent unintentional bias from creeping into your investigative work. Because here's the absolute crucial point. With the immense power to investigate and gather data comes strict, uncompromising responsibility over how participant data is handled. It's the whole shebang. You have to clearly define exactly how data is collected, how it's going to be securely stored, exactly what it's being used for, who gets access to it, especially anything that identifies participants, how long you're keeping it, and finally, how it will be securely disposed of. This ethical rigor, that is exactly what gives research its integrity. Well, we have covered a lot of ground today, right? From the pure, unadulterated curiosity of basic research to the real-world problem-solving of applied research and the rigorous step-by-step frameworks that make it all happen safely and ethically. You are now officially equipped with the Detective's Toolkit. So knowing how this continuous research cycle has quite literally built the entire modern world around you, what everyday mystery are you going to investigate next? Keep questioning things, keep structuring that curiosity, and I will see you in the next explainer.